Today, I come to interrupt this program with a special news bulletin. Today's message is don't put too much value in the value of people's opinion. So, we look at the definition of opinion a view or judgment formed about something not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. So, I guess that leads us to believe that some people just say stuff. You know how people say talking out the side of their neck or just saying whatever comes to their mind. Other definitions, the beliefs or views of a large number or majority of people about a particular thing, an estimation of quality or worth of someone or something. I remember back in, let me do the definition of value. So that's why I said don't put much value in the value of people's opinion. The regard that something is held to deserve the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. Noun, that's in the form of a noun for our English people. A person's principles or standards of behaviors. A judgment of what is important in life. Verb part. Consider someone or something to be important or beneficial. Have a high opinion of. Estimate the monetary worth of something. So sometimes people's opinions has no value. But we have to understand that we actually give their opinions value. Whether we give it a value of a penny or $1,000,000, you know. We have the power of choice. We choose. But I remember back in high school, my younger years, and people would say something, and then it would get back to you, and I would say something, and they would go back to sell that person. And I would get so worked up and just like, man, why they say this? Like, they can't say it to my face, and then I just got worked up. And I remember God saying, why do you listen to that nonsense? Like, why do you listen to that? I'm like, huh? He was like, listen, they talked about Jesus no matter what he did. They said crucify him. He healed people. He made people walk. He made people see. He brought people back from the dead. They still crucified him. So if they talked about Jesus, they're going to talk about you. And I remember, after that, they was like, oh, this person said such and such. And I said, you know what? Don't tell me nothing else they said. I don't care. They was like, what, really? I was like, no, don't tell me nothing else. After that, man, I began to be happier and have more peace, man. Just let folk talk, man. And it's just a waste of time. A lot of times people just like to start stuff, man. I was reading in the scriptures, some people just like to argue. That's what people like to do. They like to start drama, going back saying stuff and then get stuff started. People getting in fights over what somebody said or fabricated. Because think about it, if you say something that's simple, they gonna say something more than what it was. And I just remember, like I said, doing that. And then we see these things on Facebook like, oh, well, don't tell me what somebody said if you can't defend me or something like that. A lot of times, man, you just put it into God's hands, man, because like I said, it's just really just it's not even worth your time or your effort or getting all worked up, to even say something. Romans 12:2, it says, do not copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. So what that is saying is we don't have to copy how the world copies. We don't have to act like the world act. We don't have to react like the world's act. We don't have to, say it the way the world would say it. Again, don't put too much value in the values of people's opinion. Matthew 12:36, it says, but I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. Other translations, idle word, careless word, thoughtless word. So people just talking out the side and they're going to have to give an account, they're going to have to deal with that, not us, unless we're talking like that. Verse 37, for by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. So, I was telling somebody that I remember somebody had said something about, one of my friend's son, and, they had said some old thing, and, they were getting all mad, about to go back and say a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, you ain't even got to defend yourself. I said, God to deal with that. You don't have to worry about that. We look at James 3:6, and it talks about, how the tongue can set a fire. That's how somebody can say one thing and just send a lot of people off and go off, and talking about a whole bunch of nonsense. Just like a spark can set a fire that's grateful, that just takes over a whole forest or anything like that. But, it's the same way a tongue can, But the good thing is, what I love about God is, 2 Timothy 2:23, it says, reject foolish and ignorant speculation, for you know that it breeds quarreling. Some people just like to argue. At the time, people that have an opinion about your life really don't know what they're talking about. They may have heard something and then they just say something or whatever the case may be. A lot of times, sometimes people still focus on your past or say something, oh, well, this person did this. And just like, you just want to just talk, man. Like, I don't even listen to that. It don't even bother me. I had to tell somebody at work the other day, they were worrying about, how certain managers was telling them, this is what they should be doing. And, this is whether he should stay or leave, to be closer to his family. I'm like, bro, why do you worry about that stuff, man? Don't worry about that. I said, listen, that's your manager, but still, you got to understand. I said, you like one of the top in the store. I said, of course they don't want you to leave, but you got to do what's best for you. I said, listen, man, I'll take part-time. I said, dude, I enjoy my job now. I said, I enjoy it more. I said, I leave out of here at 4 o'clock. Don't nobody say nothing, man. They don't say nothing. Everybody say bye. Don't nobody be like, oh, Will, you can't leave at this time. Nah. I leave the same time almost every day. Now, there are times, I do stay and finish helping with my customer or anything like that. But like I said, I enjoy my job. I said it's more important me spending time with my children than this job. And I understand, they care about numbers, So that's how I learn to control my happiness, not worry about somebody's opinion. That fabricated opinion in that situation was based on the fact that they want him to stay because that helps them make money. Of course, that's your job, to coach people to stay and like, oh, we'll drive 2 hours. Nah, well, you don't understand the whole situation. This man needs to be home with his family. That's a commute every day this man has to do, away from his wife and his children and his father who's ill right now. You know what I'm saying? But I need you to, Facebook, if y'all listening, help me pray for him. His name is Rich. So we just want to pray for his father or anything like that. So no weapon formed against him shall prosper. So just wanted to say thank you, man. Just making these videos and, woke up early today, man. God was just talking to me, and even on the way home, man, Holy Spirit just hit me, man. And I listened to this song, it's talking about it's a yes out there, and God was showing me that, he hasn't forgot the promises that, God has said to us. Because a lot of times, sometimes if that promise doesn't come in a certain time frame, we tend to forget about it, or we just brush it under the rug. Like, oh, well, if it happens, it happens, and God said, tell you today that he didn't forget about his promise that he would do. It's coming. It's on the way. All right. Love y'all. God bless.